Johnny Warren to lead our invocation.
All right. Heavenly Father, Lord, we love you and we thank you again for the privilege of meeting here tonight with this good crowd. And Lord, we feel the excitement in the air of starting another school year. I pray your blessing on that year, Father. I pray tonight as we go into our meeting that you would give us infinite wisdom, every decision. Let's everyone in attendance get honor and glory out of it. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, do I hear a motion to adopt the agenda?
Motion we adopt it.
Okay, do I hear a second? Okay, all in favor? That's everyone. Oh, and I'm sorry, I missed the roll call. Ms. Daniels, will you do the roll call for us?
Yes, ma'am. Superintendent Dr. Jan Ines Harris.
Here.
Board Chair Carolyn Bradford.
Here.
Vice Chair Johnny Warren.
Here.
Board Member Daniel Case.
Here.
Board Member Jennifer Hartline. Here. And Board Member Bob Woods.
Here.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is approval of the board minutes. Do I hear a motion to approve the regular scheduled board meeting on June the 15th, 2020? Minutes for call board meeting July the 8th, 2020, and call board meeting for July the 15th, 2020.
Make a motion.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor? Okay, that's everyone. All right, next is superintendent's report.
Yes, ma'am. Hello, everyone. Starting off our good news report tonight, we have Mayor Alex Case, who's also the director of EMA, and he's coming to share good news about a grant. Yes, sir. Hey, Mayor.
How are y'all? Got me talking to Brother John out there. I had to come get me. I'm sorry. Again, we applied for a hazard mitigation grant several years ago during the 2015 storms when we had some flooding in Dade County. And one of the options at that time was safety rooms, storm shelters for tornadoes. And I think I approached y'all back in December that we were possibly getting awarded this grant. And two of the options for the safety rooms was for on school property. It had to be on county or school property. The first one is going to be at the Dade County Sports Complex. The second one will be at South Dade Community Center. And our third one was for the Davis community. We looked at Davis School Road. And again, we looked at this way back in 15, and as it kept going down the line, they finally approved it. Part of the school's property at the very top of the hill, before you get to where the Saddle Club group is there's a small acreage on the left. We did install one of the outdoor warning sirens for tornado warnings, which would help if our children were outside or the community there. When FEMA come up and done the final assessment of it, and we were looking at the sites for the safe room, at that time the paving had been done down at the bottom of the bowl and the walking track. And then one of our threat assessments that we had on the schools during our intruder drills is that when our kids are in the bowl, we have some issues, where to take them to. Our elementary school, our backup plan is to move them to the Dade County Courts Facility Administration Building, just filter the kids to the buildings next door. So a couple things is FEMA didn't like where we're at because that one property that we put the siren, the property is very small, and then it tapers way off the hill to a creek in the back. So we looked at the bottom of the bowl, put it there for children when they use or at the recess or anything. We have a problem with the storms. You'd have restrooms for the children if they needed it, or the threat assessment. But I think as a community, if the community center wanted to grow, that's an option I think that we've run into, that it may can only be a certain size there if it's kept at the bottom of the bowl. So there's a lot of property there that behind the bowl at the upper side of the hill, I guess south of the bowl up on the hill that goes all the way back to Worthy Chapel, is maybe we may need to move this further back and have more of a space for the shelter and parking. So I guess we just, Dr. Harris Ms. Bradford and Josh and I met and we talked about it, so we just wanted to bring it back up, and I've sent y'all some information on what the building is and the layout. It's about 55 by 36 size, and as the size is here with the restrooms in the buildings, is there's just been some questions about putting it down there at the bottom beside the playground. So just here to maybe bring some discussion and see what y'all feel is best.
And Ms. Barton's out in the hall too, if she can. Ms. Barton out there too, she might want to.
Ms. Barton?
She's over here. I'm right here.
Oh, okay. I didn't see her. I knew I saw her out in the hall. And I knew she'd want to hear. Okay.
And that's the picture of the building, what it would look like. They're precast buildings. Plainview High School has one of these back in the 2011 storms. Theirs is about 5 or 6 times bigger than that, and it held nearly 1,000 pedestrians. They're built in Bessemer, Alabama. The building will look like a nice building. They can have, I'm sorry these come over in black and white, that's my fault, but they can have brick look, or it could be brick veneered. We're looking at the precast of it to be big, but it's a solid precast building that you see sometimes at telephone buildings or sales sites, and they're buildings that will be made for the community to go to as well. And we would use it, you know, along with memorandum of understanding with y'all for point of distribution if we had to give medicine out of sickness in the community. If we need a refuge for heat or cooling stations. Again, the warning shelters, if a tornado warning come to the area, or tornado watch, it's when you need to run to the shelters. But question is, we got limited space at the, and I'm sorry, that's not in color. That was my fault when I sent it. And I think, is it still black and white what I sent y'all in the email? I apologize.
You can tell what's what.
Yep. Site 2 was the original site on top of the hill. There's that little small acreage spot that was left there. And then we're going to be looking, you can kind of remember where the old original ball field was at the top of the hill beside the football field. There's that area back in there. You'll have an easement that goes all the way back to Worley Chapel, and I think they brought part of the water line through there to help boost some pressure and stuff years ago.
So what's the new site you're proposing?
Well, it's hard to see. Let me see, I got a color one here.
On the back side of the boat.
Actually, it'll be back behind. This is the bowl. It'll be back in this area up here.
So not,
Yeah, the reason
you're
that,
staying in here, so it's not looking at using up space as far as like for the kids if they're wanting to do kickball? Because my understanding is that y'all were talking about putting it down here.
somewhere down here against the fence, out of this.
Is what you were originally saying. But now you're saying it's not.
Now it's gonna be in the woodline.
We would have to clear the wood.
Yeah, that's what I mean, but that's-
Y'all's property, I'm sorry I didn't have the survey section, but it goes at a narrow point and then straight back to Worthy Chapel. We would have to go in there and have easement to get to the property.
You say there's already an easement there.
Y'all's property there, we may have to have some easement either from y'all or continue the road to get to it, but the dead end of that road, it goes into the old football field, which is that Saddle Club group. So we're either going to have an easement from them to either use part of it to get to that or cut our own road in. Because you think the bow was real deep and there's a big ravine off part of that hill. It would be further behind it.
What's the acreage size you're looking at it using between the building itself and the parking?
Well, the building sets for 216 people and we haven't worked with that yet. I mean, we're not looking to square nothing out, it'll just be sitting on y'all's property.
Right. But I didn't know how much you were looking at as far as like actually clearing out. Because are you saying using the bowl for the parking or?
No,
parking
we can't. We got to be, FEMA's got a lot of specific guidelines for it, the adequate parking for that as people can get there. So that we can average 2 point, so we got to have almost 75 to 100 parking spots. And that's all us doing that. I mean, we're just going to try. I know there's some questions about it. It was brought to me from other folks and we met, and I just want to get it back in front of y'all to see where it is. where we might like to do.
Could you send me a copy of that survey piece and
Yes.
showing it where you were talking about?
Well, I'm just looking on Q Public, off that back spot of the school's property. We haven't had a chance to walk out there to see what the terrain was. We worked so hard on the small property, but we realized when they went out there and looked at it, it was too small. They were there, seen the bottom of the bowl and thought about it, but I think the county commission and the community may want to add on to it, or it may become bigger, or another building on it eventually if it's something worked out with y'all. We were approved for 3 sites. These buildings are, I think they're right at $460-something thousand that we've been approved for, and the county be paying 15% of that price with splosh funds. So it's a 85-15% match of grant money. And all the in-kind will be the county providing all the work, clearing, footers and all that. But I will get a survey back to y'all, or that area that I was talking about.
According to Q Public, it looks like there wouldn't be much easement necessary if the lines are right on there.
Yeah.
Of course, they've run into where they're not exactly right. But
Yeah, that's right. We haven't had a chance to walk. It's just been so hot and snaky. We were not.
Yeah.
And we talked about putting this project on the very last end. This is going to be running way into next year. The alternate side, if there's alternate funds available, will be for the North Dade school property. We were approved for 3 sites. They want us to pick an alternate, and again, we have to be on county or school board property. And we picked that as well for the size of the community. So the alternate site would be close to what was that building we called, the original, not the original old building, but the brick square building with a flat roof. It'd be sitting somewhere close to it.
Long building.
But we haven't been approved for funding. They've told us that we have a good chance for the 4th building, and we're prepared if they do that, and to put that as an alternate site. We have to request a move originally for this through FEMA. That's why before we get much further, I wanted y'all to look at it and see, because we were approved to put it at the top where the outdoor warning siren is now. Once we terminate the site, I've been working with the GEMA and FEMA coordinators and explaining our situation, and they're fine with that. Once we find it, I have to send datas where we plan to put it out, and they look at floodplain. We have to resubmit it back up to FEMA for location approval.
So what do you need from the board as far as before you move forward? Is there something you got to have from the
Well,
board before you
I guess
move
more or
forward?
less that we can be working on a memorandum of understanding that this facility will be there on school property that could be used for the community
Okay.
for a safe room.
Okay.
And then we can meet again to determine exactly how big and what it will be, and it could be used for the school as well. It just got our minds thinking with our threat assessments with our intruders, and we thought about putting it down there for our children that's in the bowl during that time, because we never know where those threats happen. As much as I work with y'all's safety plans with Josh and each of the principals, that's always been a concern of ours with the kids in the bottom. So maybe we can cut a trail from their bowl up. They can just skedaddle right up the hill and get in it and get away. I've been looking at ideas of that, is keeping it as close as we can to the bowl, and maybe do a nice trail, easy trail, to get to our kids there, because that's just another thing that shot off a light bulb to us and thinking of our children. So more or less for information, we're going to start with the other 2 first on county and get back to you. I just wanted to come back and tell you we have been approved. We want to move forward. It's just stepping forward to make sure we're all good to do this. And I'm sorry about the black and white. That was totally my fault. It's been a Monday all day.
Questions y'all want to ask them?
All right.
Okay.
Thank y'all.
Thank
Thank you for
you.
your time.
Appreciate you coming.
You're welcome.
The next thing that we have for the board, I'm very excited about bringing this back to the board, and I'll move over here so I can face you. Last year, the Dade County School System applied for a United States Department of Agriculture grant to help fund the purchase of a high-end 3D carbon fiber printer for Dade County High School. If funded, NASA stated that the Dade County School District would be the only high school in America to have a high-strength solution 3D carbon fiber edition printer to target solutions for functional prototypes, production parts, and rugged tooling that need the strength and stiffness of carbon-filled composite material. DCHS would also be involved in the development of the new innovative flight replacement parts for Army helicopters utilizing carbon fiber capabilities. The school system went through an extensive grant process with the United States Department of Agriculture. And we appreciate the help of Senator Mullis, who had a conflict tonight, or he did want to come tonight. The governor's office has helped us with this, Secretary Perdue, the governor's office of student achievement, Joy Hawkins, and others have helped us. After completing the requirements for this grant in November of 2019, we received word in July of 2020 that the system was awarded $47,000 from the United States Department of Agriculture toward this project. In addition to the USDA grant, I present to you tonight, which I briefly referenced last month, my suggestion, recommendation to the board is that we utilize the following funding sources to complete this project for our deserving students. And again, the 3D printer, the total cost is $132,392. And we have a $47,000 grant from USDA. We also received a Georgia Power Foundation grant for $5,000. We received $26,616 in a Georgia Power Energy Efficiency Rebate Program, which is unearmarked and available for the use of any project. We received a Georgia School Boards Association insurance dividend of $12,947. Again, this was new money, unearmarked and available, and $30,177 from the Georgia Department of Community Health reimbursements, again unearmarked. And that leaves us a balance of $10,652.04. Ms. Patty Johnson and I have filled out the paperwork for a Georgia Department of Education rural education grant. Did I say that right? Yes, ma'am. For $5,000, and I would be surprised if we didn't get it. I think we have a good chance of getting that. But $10,652, and if we get that other $5,000, then that will leave $5,000, which we could take that money from SPLOST for this technology. My recommendation is to approve the purchase of the 3D Fortis 380 MC carbon fiber edition system from Stratasys in the amount of $132,392 for Dade County High School to be the only high school in America to have such printer to be utilized in helping to make new innovative flight replacement parts for Army helicopters. Additionally, this quote includes support, removal equipment, supplies, tips, foundation sheets, modeling materials, support materials, annual system service contracts, and the Stratasys F170 printer 1-year education package. And I just want to say for the folks back home, we're going to, if we can get out of this virus, we hope to have an open house to celebrate getting this support from the federal government and the state government for our students. We're very proud to be the only school system in America to have the middle school making parts for the International Space Station, and now the high school, if the board approves this, would be the only high school in America to be making parts from this 3D printer for United States Army helicopters. So a citizen said to me, now come on, are they really making parts for the International Space Station? And how's that going down? They really are. They really are. For everybody at home. Our students are, and I invited tonight our Director of Career Tech, that is Pam Barton, and our star teacher and Assistant Career Tech Director, Sheena Hill. And Ms. Hill and Ms. Barton are going to share just a little bit about the printer, and then we'll be glad to answer any questions that you have. Okay? Thank y'all for being here.
Okay, so I gave everyone a little packet that has the Stratus FDM 3D printers and materials. You guys have that. So I had this printed off because I wanted y'all to just see in comparison what we have at the middle school versus what we hope to have at the high school. If you will flip back to the materials and the printers, I have them highlighted in pink is what we currently have at the middle school, and green is going to be the high school. The pink, as you can see, the main difference in these two printers is going to be the Ultim capabilities at the middle school, which is what we are currently doing for the ISS now. And then the nylon, the FDM nylon, which is the carbon fiber material, will be the difference that the capabilities the high school will have. So printing, I guess the easiest way for me to say, printing in Ultim is mainly, it's mainly FDM, which is like it's like weed eater wire. Most of y'all have seen that when y'all come over to visit. The big rolls that has the plastic that comes out and it feeds into and prints out. The carbon fiber is very similar, except it is very tedious when it comes to switching the head out and cleaning to be able to print these parts. So it's very in-depth, and I feel like it's more of a step up for the high school versus middle school is really not prepared for that yet. The learning the basics and building the foundation that we're doing right now at the middle school is wonderful, and yes, it is the first of its kind. But being able to grow them is the important part. Just because they're learning early, that's great, but if we can't continue the learning, then what good did that do starting at 6th grade if we don't continue that in 9th through 12th? So this will take that next step up for them to be able to grow and have this knowledge that's not even being taught in schools yet, because it is the first carbon fiber from the Stratus line that anybody will be doing for the Army. This program is also feeding through the NASA Hunch program, so they'll still be involved in what we were already doing. So I know most of y'all have met Bob Zeke, so he'll still be involved and he'll get to grow with the kids also. So it won't be a new relationship, it'll be a continuous relationship, which is only going to help them later when it comes to that resume building. Because he does build relationships with these students, and he's like, oh yeah, he said that one right there, we're going to keep our eye on that one because we're going to get him in here, here, here. So it's really good for them also later in life to take that next step into the workforce.
So for the folks back home, the thing that maybe they didn't connect with is the fact that our students are not just working in isolation. We have a partnership with NASA.
Yes.
Through your background and experience. And so are our students making parts for the International Space Station?
They absolutely are. In bulk. And it takes a lot of manpower. So if I didn't have those students helping out, it wouldn't get done. And there's a full process that goes through. You have the students that are working on modifying the design process, creating the G codes, sending that over to the printer, loading the printer, making sure everything's printing properly, making sure the platform's build is laid out properly, and then we actually print, break away, and then we start cleaning the parts. They have to go in and measure the parts with calipers, make sure they're precise and to the specs of the drawings. Then they will sign off, package it, and ship it out. So they go through the full process. Do y'all have any questions? I did want y'all to look at the page that has the printers at the top, and I had a check mark, a green and a pink check mark. Has the Fortis 380 MC and then the Fortis 450 MC. I wanted y'all to see the comparison that the students are going to be working practically with the same printer.
You said the 450 is what the middle school got.
The 450 is what we have now,
Yeah.
and that's the Ultim capability. The 450 and the 900 are the only two printers that have the Ultim capability, which is what NASA has to have for the flight space materials. But the 380 has the carbon fiber. Now, we can step up the 450 with a new head. I believe it's around $8,000 to get a new head to make it carbon fiber. But I just feel like that's too advanced for middle school right now. I feel like the high school could really kind of dig in and learn more at that
It's good to
level.
know there's upgrades available without having to buy a whole new printer in the future.
Yes. I mean, if it does turn into, hey, this is really growing and really doing well,
Right.
and we want to, advance that at a lower level, if we see the need, to go ahead and get some growing, or, if programs change, or, we do have that option.
I have a question as far as like for the high school and doing the parts for the Army. Are they gonna be able to, I mean, I know like they've done the parts at the middle school, but when they do the parts at the high school, are they gonna be able to make that kind of a model where, what's the payout gonna look like? Are they gonna be able to fund their own program back into that, or how is that working?
If NASA Hunch is back in the program, then they're going to support the same as they do at the middle school.
Okay.
So as far as materials and that type of thing, that's the partnership that we have with them. As long as we're producing for them, then normally anything that I may need for a class project, but most of everything we do is based out of the projects we do for them, because it's a time constraint. So, but if there is something extra that we need, I can say, hey, do you care to fund this for us? And they're normally on board, no matter what I need.
I think I heard you say G-code a minute ago.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
The programming.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little bit familiar with that with CNC,
Yeah, it's very similar.
FNUC and G-code.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The way the program does it, it practically pushes it out on its own. We normally call it an STL, but depending what type of a 3D print program we're using, GrabCAD normally pushes it out as a G-code. Do I have any more questions?
I was just thinking that G-code programming for CNC equipment will stay with them too for.
It will. Just being able to read blueprints and understand all of that can go into multiple fields. It could go into welding, it can go into machining. I mean, it's not a lost, even if they do take it at the middle school level and they learn just the basics there, even if they decide, okay, additive manufacturing is not for me, it's still not lost because of the basic skills that they learn. Just being able to read a tape and calipers at a middle school level, most middle schoolers don't even know what calipers are. So being able to actually learn and be able to use them properly, that just follows them on into high school, if it is welding or machining or whatever field that they go into.
I like it.
I don't have a question, but I feel obligated to say this. This is not a reflection on you in any way, shape, or form. But I wasn't one that was doing high fives about spending money on this printer. Right? Just because it's fiscally irresponsible. However, got to give credit where credit's due. I want to thank everybody, both for the politicians that might be listening, for your collective support from the state of Georgia, and for the staff here, for the hard work that they did in getting this thing funded. So I can sleep well with it. I knew the intent was there, but just, I got in my soapbox before saying that I wasn't one that wanted to sign up for something, because we didn't have the money for it, but we do now. So I want to thank everybody that made this happen, because this is the right thing, and I'll sleep better knowing that, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, General. And last summer, I had the opportunity to visit with Secretary DeVos in Washington, D.C. with Superintendent Woods and Joy Hawkins. And Ms. Hawkins said, Jan, tell the Secretary about the project with NASA. And she said, I'd like to come see it, And so who knows, maybe some other good things will come from it. And we've got a wonderful team, and Nick Wilson will be overseeing this project at the high school. And Ms. Barton, Mr. Farney, anybody want to say anything from the high school? Mr. Farney? Is Mr. Wilson back there?
Mr. Wilson's up there.
They're hiding.
Y'all come in.
Yeah, they keep sneaking in
Want
on
to say
you.
something, Mr. Farney? Come on.
I just want to say it's a
Yeah,
great
we want to hear what you have to say. Come on in. You know we do.
I just want to say it's a great opportunity, and what an awesome thing it is. And you know, anytime we get to put our awesome school on the map, that's it's a good thing. So.
Mr. Wilson, come on in. Let everybody at home see you. Who's going to be heading up that with NASA?
The guy behind the some of me at least.
I know. You want to say anything? You already have a great program started working with the Tennessee Aquarium, put you on the map, not only in our country, but in our world. So this will just be another step for you.
Yeah, a step in a different direction.
But definitely a step forward, and I'm excited for it. I'm hoping we have some great new challenges for the kids and for myself, and I'm just thankful that Sheena's here as well to also be my guide, because she's very familiar with this avenue. So I think this is just a wonderful opportunity for us and the kids, for sure. So I appreciate that.
Ms. Barton, do you want to say anything?
Well, I just want to thank you personally for your involvement with this, because I know you worked so hard to get these grants and everything, and to Sheena, because she brought the program to us, and Nick's been a great mechatronics instructor, and he's willing to go to the next step and bring those kids, and he's already done so much with the Tennessee Aquarium and other things. The students love him, and they will embrace this just as he will, and I just thank you and the board for this opportunity.
Well, thank you for all you've done, and the entire team. We have a wonderful team in Dade County Schools. We really do. And I'm excited about this for our kids. It's going to be a good thing. If there are no more questions. And y'all are welcome to stay, and you're welcome to go. They'll be voting on this later if you need to go. So anyway, this would be an okay time for y'all to go have dinner. If you want to stay, you're welcome to stay, though. The next thing I have on my agenda for everyone at home and for the board is an update on the reopening plan. And so Mr. Bill is going to pull up the latest newsletter that I sent home with everyone. And if parents at home, if you want to revisit anything that we've talked about, it's all on our website. So our website is our home base for all of our information, either at each school or at the central office website. And underneath departments and administration, it has superintendent. And if you go to the superintendent site, you'll see newsletters, and just the latest one. I've sent out 2 or 3 this summer about the virus and reopening efforts. So again, to recap from the last meeting, to kind of bring us where we are today, our team is united in presenting to the board, and the board embraced this plan at the last meeting on July the 8th, I believe it was, that we're going to reopen on our regular schedule that's posted on our website, our calendar that the board approved last year. August 7th will be the students' first date of school, and parents and students have 2 options. Traditional school. And what does traditional school like? Well, I'm not going to take the time to click through all this because I've already done that, so I'm just going to summarize from here on this hard drive. The traditional school is a 5-day school, and of course we want to make it as normal as possible, but it will look different. We will try to social distance, but we cannot guarantee it. And that is why we're encouraging everyone to wear a mask when we come back to school. And we will try to have the desk and the students 3 to 6 feet apart. In some places that won't be possible, like on the bus. So we're going to require students to wear a mask on the bus. You can find out more about what a typical day will look like by going to our website. if you click on reopening school information, you can go and look at what's it going to look like at the elementary school, what's it going to look like at the high school. We're going to tighten down on things that we're going to try to not have unnecessary things that add to risk. For example, we're not going to be having school-wide assemblies right at first. We're not going to be doing field trips right at first. That doesn't mean we won't do it later. We don't want to have visitors. I had a couple of emails from parents of pre-K students, and they said, well, I just have to walk my child to school. Our principals are going to work with our pre-K parents, and they understand all of that. So you just need to talk to the principal about those specific concerns. They're going to work with you and help you any way they can. And Dr. Long and her team, they're working up a really great plan for the school lunch program. And so you'll be hearing more about that as we get closer to school. So traditional school is traditional, 5 days, but it will look a little bit different. And we do encourage everyone to wear a mask. Last week, we had a Zoom meeting with Dr. Vocchio, who is the Dade County Public Health physician, and he actually encouraged our employees to wear not only a mask but a shield. So we have ordered masks and shields for all of our employees. We've also ordered water bottle filling stations for our students so that they can bring water bottles or thermoses from home and then refill them in that way. And Dr. Vocchio encouraged everyone to wear a mask. He said that it helps with the risk, and so that we all should be wearing a mask. Now, in here tonight, we're pretty much social distanced, and so some of us have masks on, some of us don't. But that's what Dr. Vocchio encouraged all of us to wear masks, and for the teachers to not only wear a mask but to wear a shield. We've ordered partitions, and it's on the agenda tonight for some additional partitions for the classroom, and just like the sneeze guards that we are all seeing when we go in to stores or whatever, we're trying to put more of those in the classrooms. So that's a little bit about traditional school, except for one big question. And everybody wants to know the answer to this question. And that is, what happens when somebody gets a positive test or someone gets sick and someone's exposed, and what's that going to look like? And the answer to that question is we have a decision-making map, and it's embedded in the newsletter from the Department of Public Health. And everything that we've got is either from the CDC, the Department of Public Health, or the Georgia Department of Education. And so there are different if this, then that scenarios. And so Dr. Vocchio told us on Thursday, you cannot answer step 1, 2, 3 because each case will be different. And let me give you an example. The driving force for people to be in school will be temperature. And principals, if I miss anything or I need to be corrected on anything, tell me while I'm trying to capture this. But the driving force when we are in school will be temperature. And so what we will be doing is we will be asking parents to take the temperature of their student before they ever come to school. And the way we're all going to stay healthy and strong is by us working together as a team. And Dade County is very good at that. So everyone, take your temperature at home. Then when you get to school, you can count on us checking temperature multiple times during the day. And teachers will be checking, principals will be checking. And if a student has a temperature of 100.4 or higher, then we're going to, or an employee, we're going to quickly isolate that student. And I want to thank the board members for approving last month for us to hire 2 additional nurses. So parents at every school, we're going to have a nurse who will be on staff who will handle those situations. So we're working to create that isolation space for students or employees that have fever, and we will work to get them transported home immediately. And basically, and again, I'm trying to reduce this to just something super simple because it's not really simple, but you know, one of the complications is that it's taking so long to get test results back. So Dr. Vocchio said this: if you have a fever, the bottom line is you have to be fever-free before you can come back to school. Now, if you go and you're tested and you are negative, then you can come back to school after you don't have fever for 24 hours, okay? But if you test positive because you have fever and you have one symptom, all of this is in that map. If you're thinking, well, I can't capture all this, it's all on the decision map. Then you have to stay home either 10 days or 72 hours after you are fever-free, whichever is longer. So like if you, on day 8, your fever breaks, okay, you still have to stay home 3 more days. So for you, you would be home 11 days, not 10 days. Or if your fever breaks on day 9, then you'd be home 12 days. So each situation is different, but the simplest way that I can explain how we're going to be monitoring who's at school and who's been exposed or whatever is through temperature. Now, when that child comes to the nurse's office and the child has the temperature, then there are a series of questions that will be asked. Did you come in close contact with someone? Who is that person? We will contact the health department, and then we'll have to make a decision. So teachers have a lot of questions. Dr. Vocchio said that, for example, if a teacher is teaching a class and a student gets a fever, and the student goes to the office, goes home, and we find out that the student is positive, what happens? Does the teacher have to be quarantined? Does he says no. If you don't have any symptoms and you maintained the mask and the shield and or social distancing, he said you should be fine. That's why we're encouraging the social distancing. So I'm not going to go into all of these what-if situations because it's impossible. There's an infinite array of possibilities and answers depending on where the student was or where the employee was and did they social distance. And that's why we all need to not let our guard down. We need to be vigilant and dedicated in our efforts to keep that social distancing, wear our mask, and we'll be getting the face shields for the teachers as well. And Dr. Vocchio said hand washing is the most important thing, just soap and water. And did I leave anything out about that? Okay, Ms. Blevins. Okay, so there are 2 options for students: traditional school and then virtual school. I had a parent yesterday that emailed me and said, what is the platform going to be for virtual school? And I said, well, we're going to be recommending that tonight. And so at this time, I'm going to ask our Director of Academics, Patty Johnson, to come forward. And our principals are here, and we'll all be glad to answer questions. But the good news on our virtual plan is that it's separate from the day-to-day. The student will still be enrolled in Dade County schools. We will still receive funding for that student. That student belongs to us. That student can participate in after-school activities. And basically, you have to do one or the other. We're not going to have somebody doing virtual school for 3 classes and then coming to school after lunch. We're not doing that. It's one or the other. and not both. So the question I've been asked 2 or 3 times tonight is, well, how many students signed up for virtual school? Now, this is very interesting. You know, I'm a former math teacher, so I was really getting into these numbers. We surveyed the parents, and we said, how many of you plan on coming back, sending your children to regular school, and how many of you want to sign up for virtual school? And the survey results were 87% said traditional school, 13% said virtual school. So as of today, we have 13.8% of our students enrolled in virtual school. The last time I checked, it was 302, correct?
We're at 304 right now.
304. So we have 304 students who are enrolled in virtual school. And the last thing I'm going to say, and then Ms. Johnson, you can be coming up, is that the students who are in virtual school will have a 1-week grace period when school starts, so that if a person changes his or her mind, they can go to the other option. And if the child is elementary, they have to stay in there for 9 weeks, and then we'll be glad to change them out if that's not working. And if it's high school, it will be 1 semester. So those are the options. And the last thing I'm going to say is that we are working, we have the state-of-the-art, the latest cleaning technology. Mr. Smith and his crew, he's going to give an update in a few minutes. They've been working very hard to get the buildings all ready and to maintain the buildings. And thank you also for allowing us to hire additional custodians to maintain the cleanliness. Yes, ma'am.
I just, out of curiosity, roughly how many of that 304 is elementary versus middle versus high school?
It's about half and half. Ms. Johnson will probably break that down for you, but the last time I checked, it was kind of equally distributed among the schools, but she's going to answer that. So Ms. Johnson, anything else for me? I'll turn it over to her. Okay, Patty Johnson.
Good afternoon, everyone. With the present uncertainties that we have with COVID-19, we just felt as a team that our parents needed a virtual option for the upcoming school year. And we also felt like the teachers needed a platform should we go home again as we did in March. So tonight you have before you 2 different proposals, one for pre-K through 5 and one for 6 through 12. The platforms that we've met for the past 2 weeks and we've decided upon, we wanted to present those to you tonight so we can go ahead and get our training that we need before school starts. We had a little bit of a difficult time finding something for pre-K through 5. It's not ideal for those kids to be in a virtual platform. They really need the socialization that they get from school. However, we know that there is that uncertainty and parents are worried, so we want to be able to offer them something.
So Schools PLP is the platform that we're recommending for grades pre-K through 5. It holds 2 different systems, Lincoln Learning and Bright Thinker. And we're using both. We will be using both systems to provide students with the curriculum needed for the coming year.
Is that uploaded on our?
If you scroll on down under consent agenda, right after, it's number 11.
We've also added in there what courses the students would be able to take in both of the different platforms.
The way I understand, there's one teacher that's going to be handling the virtual, is it per grade level or?
Lincoln Learning will be used for pre-K through grade 2 virtual students and will be the system all teachers will use in case we're mandated to shut down later in the year. That's going to be a relief for the teachers.
Are they familiar with that already?
Well, we'll have to have training when we come back to school.
So it's not something to use?
No, it's not.
No, it's new. It's new, but that I think our teachers have expressed that they're pleased. The principals have indicated that they won't have to create, the platform for the students. Lincoln Learning has a parent and teacher guide for all courses, pacing guide, resource materials, and a guide to social and emotional learning for grades K through 2. Bright Thinker is different in that it will allow students in grades 3 to 5 to self-pace. On the management end, we'll be able to monitor students daily and see the total minutes spent on lessons, number of attempts, grades, and how students are moving through the material and if the students are on course. They can roster our students using Infinite Campus information and then put the grades into Infinite Campus for us. All materials within schools PLP can be downloaded if paper copies are needed for students who don't have the internet. And do you want to speak to that too?
Well, the teachers would be involved if we shut down like we did before.
Right.
They would be involved with the kids who came back to school. The virtual option is truly virtual. They'll be self-paced. We'll be monitoring them. I'll do most of that, but we'll monitor them. But those pre-K through second grade, they're going to have an adult at home to help guide them.
That was my concern, if the teachers are coming back as normal with normal load, and then having
No.
this as well.
No.
I mean, that'd be a nightmare.
No, Ms. Johnson's going to,
So just if we ended up, of course, there may be a little bit of help necessary, but if we end up having to shut down, heaven forbid.
If the
Right.
student, if a parent contacted me and said their student was having trouble, if I couldn't help them, I would find a teacher who could.
Okay,
But mostly it would be self-paced on their own
yeah.
with some parent guidance.
Yeah, I think just our day-to-day is gonna be enough of a load.
Yeah.
yeah, we did not want to burden our teachers with
Right.
both of those, like having a hybrid. And the nice thing is, like, if, we hope we don't have to shut down, but if we did, then we have this and the teachers won't have to start scrambling. Like if 100% of our students had to go digital.
So this is kind of putting together the 3 or 4 different platforms or different things we were having to use before, but this is all under one
For the-
program. Correct?
Well, for the pre-K through 5, we haven't used a total virtual program before because, like I said, it's not ideal.
Right,
But we have for 6 through 12, we've used something like this before.
I got you.
And we hope to only have to use this for pre-K through 5th grade 1 year. We hope that things are back to normal.
No kidding.
Yes.
All right.
And to answer your question, Ms. Hartline, it's 49 students at Davis, 92 at Dade Elementary, 76 at the middle school, and 87 at the high school right now.
When you talk 13%, does it seem like that many students? That's actually quite a few students.
304.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all those are gonna be under you, unless, like you said, that there's specific. help
This is your baby
needed.
now, right?
It's my baby now.
Yeah. We're back over better time.
We're going to designate special ed staff also to make sure that IEP services are implemented, although they won't be exactly as written in terms of traditional.
So we've got some that are special needs virtual, going virtual.
And Mr. Farney said Dr. Watkins will help me some too over the high school.
Will you talk just a minute? You talked about the PLP. Will you talk about the Apex for the middle and high school?
Apex is something that Mr. Farney and also Ms. Beeler, they chose. They felt like it was a better fit for their kids versus the school's PLP, the way it's set up. They liked the rigor on it better for grades 6 through 12. And Ms. Beeler wanted to stay in sync with Mr. Farney for the high school.
Is Mr. Farney out there?
Right behind
Y'all
you.
want to?
He's over there.
Oh, there you are. This social distancing is,
Yeah, we're good out here though.
come on in.
He's got the distance.
Do any of the principals want to say anything about either program? And while you're thinking about what you want to say about it is, Miss Johnson, we wrote a grant. She initiated it for the Wi-Fi on the buses. And anyway, we're hoping to talk about having hotspots around for people.
Well, I wrote a grant and we did not get that grant, but the State Department has written a grant for the whole state and Dade County will be getting 8 hotspots for Wi-Fi on buses. So we'll be able to have 8 of our buses. So even in bad weather, I talked to Mr. Smith and our bus drivers could take buses home in different areas and have the capability for kids to get online that way as well.
So even if they're parked, they're a mobile hotspot.
They don't have to be running.
No.
Okay.
No.
That's good.
It'd be great for the kids when we go on ball games. We're going an hour away. Students could do their homework on the bus on the way there. So that'd be great.
Good idea.
I have a general question. It might be very simple and basic, but how are we registering for school this school year?
For the
Just in general, I'm a parent out there, right? Like, for example, the other day I had someone ask me, are you sure school's going to start? You know, of course, so what, I said, yes, here's the date, et cetera. Well, we haven't heard, even though I know we've really trying to get the word out, right? But I'm just saying, so with all this, has registration, has it already happened because we roll everybody over knowing where they're gonna go? Or do parents, Patty, have to do something, given what we're talking about here?
For the virtual, we sent out a form that they had to fill out, and that came right back to me.
Very well.
We were going to close it on Friday. We left it open over the weekend. I've closed it again today. I've had a couple of phone calls today, but really and truly, parents that are out there listening, if they want to have the virtual option, I really need them to call me or email me tomorrow so we can close this down. So principals will know the number.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that because I wasn't sure what.
But as far as regular school goes, it's just business as usual.
Yeah, if they were enrolled last year, they're enrolled.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, that's all fine and dandy, but if we had to do something unique, now's the time.
And it's on the agenda a little bit later, updating one of our policies about enrollment, because we're trying to move to an online model for new students so that they're not having to come to 2 different locations physically with the virus and everything.
And the registration forms are all online now on the Dade County Schools website.
Thank you.
So a new student altogether coming into our system can either go online or call.
They'll have to go online, but I think they have to download the forms after they fill them out. Is that right, Bill? And then take them to the school.
One of them has to be notarized by us, so.
And we've done that at each school too. We have notaries at every school. So if anybody at home needs to get registered, they can go online.
And then make one stop. Yeah.
Yeah, we're trying to make it one stop instead of 2. But we'll help them at any school they go to. Do you want to say anything about Apex?
Yeah, Apex, I'm super excited about it. Ingenuity is what we've been using for credit repair and credit recovery in the past. And I'm not going to throw them under a bus or anything, but our relationship with them has left a little to be desired. And speaking with the folks from Apex, I think it meets not only our past needs of credit repair and credit recovery, but also fills in this virtual school piece very nicely. One of the things that really stuck out to me, a lot of times in Edgenuity, kids would sit and watch like a 30-minute video or something like that, and then, we're supposedly taking notes, and then they answer questions. A lot of times they Google the answers. In this particular case, I just clicked on a random, I think it was like 7th grade English or something like that. Their goal is to have the student interacting with the screen every 20 seconds. So you've got to click something, you've got to move something, you know what I mean? So it is constant feedback and little bite-sized chunks. And so I was just messing around with it. 15 minutes in, I realized that I've like completed this whole lesson, and I'm like, whoa, I didn't even realize, I was just, completing the little task. So super excited about it, and for us to be able to access that content if we do have to go to a fully digital, kind of a shutdown mode, will be great for all the teachers. So super excited about that. And it's allowing us, kind of like what Daniel was talking about earlier, getting rid of some of those individual pieces. Edgenuity was costing us roughly $28,000. And so this is just a little bit more with a whole lot more utility. So we can get rid of that and offer a whole lot more.
Okay. Any of the other principals want to say anything?
I think this type of platform is necessary for the elementary teachers just because we want them to focus on instruction during the day in the traditional model. So this takes a little bit of extra, pressure off of them so that they can focus more on instruction in the classroom. So I think it's, really needed.
Does anybody have any more questions? You're good? Okay. I think we're...
And parents, if you have any questions about any traditional school or virtual school, please feel free to reach out to the principals, Ms. Johnson, me, Ms. Reyes, any of us. We'll be glad to help you. We'll get the answer as best we can. And next we've got some very flashy jewelry to hand out. And Coach Cooper, I forgot I was going to put y'all up first. I apologize.
It's
You got
okay.
some jewelry, I heard.
We do. Good evening, and I don't want us to take this moment for granted. I was just out there thinking, just to put it a little bit in perspective, the last time we got to celebrate something like this was 2012. Before that was 2004. And so, I know I've been in several school systems where this doesn't get to happen. So I'm very excited to recognize our wrestlers. For one, I don't get a text from my son every week now that says, "Has our rings come in yet?" So I'm going to call in Coach Poston and Dakota Johnson, Caden Cooper. I would like to go ahead and say that Heidi Raines is out on vacation, unfortunately, this week, but Coach Poston.
Coach, I'm sorry, I meant to get you up there early so you could get to practice.
That's all right. I made him go to the weight room first so I could make it. Get all this stuff straightened out. All right. As you said, I want to thank you guys really from the bottom of my heart for doing this, because especially ordinarily, as much as we fundraise, we probably could have done this, but with COVID-19, the way it hit, we wouldn't have been able to do this for the kids without you guys. So I really appreciate this. The kids are going to have this for the rest of their life and remember that their community did this for them. The first one that I want to give is to Mr. Caden Cooper, and I'm going to let his daddy put it on his hand. But this is the ring.
Nice.
What I'm really proud about this ring for Cato, and I hope I don't tear up, but at area, Cato made it to the finals, and he got destroyed by a kid from Rockmart. I mean, tech fault. And so the next week we go to Bremen for sectionals, and they're on the opposite sides of the bracket, and that kid's daddy finds out that Caden won his semifinal match going into finals, and he don't know that, Coach Cooper's sitting over there near him. And he goes running over to the kid's mama. He said, he won. So he's guaranteeing that his kid's going to win the sectional. And I think it's probably the best match I've ever seen Cato win. He fought, did it go in overtime?
Yeah.
Went all the way to overtime. And we thought we would see that kid again at state, but he never made it back to Caden. And Caden headlocked his way all the way through the finals. And in the finals, we had Heidi on one mat and him on one mat. And I told him, don't throw that headlock. Wait, they're gonna know the headlock's coming. So there's a break in the action, the other kid's bleeding or something, and he comes over there and he goes, hey, let me throw it. He's pushing in. I said, go for it. And he stuck that kid. That kid never even knew what hit him. But I'm gonna let his daddy put it on his hand.
And Mr. Cooper, y'all kind of pause for a photo from the paper.
You get out of the way.
And you need to be in there too, Coach. Peyton Elliott is here from the Dade Sentinel. That's our new editor over there.
And don't be frogging people in the head with that thing. And the next one will be our senior, Dakota Johnson, who the reason we couldn't wait on Heidi is he's supposed to leave and go off to St. Andrews in North Carolina, where he received a wrestling scholarship. So we wanted to go ahead and make sure that we recognized him. Dakota started wrestling in the 7th grade. I had recruited his brother. His brother was in 6th grade, and I had him in class. And I tried to recruit him. He's always wearing cowboy boots around. And that's what I remember, this little 7th grade, skinny little 7th grade kid. He's like, I don't want to do that. So we went to Rossville and wrestled. And as soon as the match was over here, I remember him coming across because the sound of the cowboy boots on that gym floor coming across. And he said, I want to wrestle. But Dakota, wrestling is such an awesome sport because it teaches you so much about life, because you have so many failures before you actually get success. And when Dakota was a sophomore, he had beaten a kid from Gordon Central 3 times. And we got to the final, or the match at sectionals, that if he won it, he would have got to go to state, and that kid beat him. And he was, of course, distraught. And then last year we go into the state finals, or the state championship, and he's the #1 seed. And he goes out there, he gets pinned in 30 seconds? 34 seconds. So you remember, it sticks with you, but it's motivation. So he wound up wrestling that kid for 3rd and 4th, and he beat him for 3rd. So this year when he got there, he was all about business. So it's an absolute pleasure to put this on your finger, Big Daddy. So I'm proud of these guys, and I'm proud of Heidi too. Heidi, When Heidi won her match, she beat a kid who was the state runner-up last year, and we found out, after she won it. By beating that kid, it made her the 14th ranked wrestler at her weight class in this country. So, pretty big deal. So, thank you, board, for doing this for these guys. Yes, sir.
How many state championships is that for Dakota between, I know powerlifting, you came back to the states.
Did you win state powerlifting?
I thought he had a, okay.
No.
I got 10.
No, he finished.
That's still pretty good.
So, but thank y'all very much.
Thank you. Congratulations. Coach Cooper?
And I want to kind of reiterate what he said. You know, I sent an article to Mr. Farney and Dr. Harris about a man named Dalvin Tomlinson that played for the University of Alabama. Won several championships for them, and now he's with the New York Giants. And Henry County High School actually called him back just to give him a state championship ring that he had won back in high school 10 years ago. He actually was a state champion 3 out of 4 years. So to support these guys and give them this opportunity, I really do appreciate it. Just to give you a quick update on several things with athletics. I know you're probably tired of hearing about COVID-19, and I'm gonna have to go back to it just for a second, just to let you know that our coaches have done an outstanding job at following the requirements set forth by GHSA. The first thing a coach does when kids come into the front entrance there is they put a digital thermometer up to their forehead. I heard you talking about temperatures a second ago, and we would send anybody home that was 100.4 or higher, and we've not had to do that yet. Our kids have become educated on the symptoms of coronavirus. You know, we've had some, the very first week, maybe the first day, a little girl answered yes on one of the questions. I immediately go up to the weight room and I'm like, I need to pull you to the side. You answered yes on shortness of breath. Yeah, Coach Cooper, when I start working out hard, I'm telling you, it's hard for me to breathe. And I'm like, that's not what we're talking about. So we've had to educate our kids on when to say yes, that we're talking about symptoms. But they fill out a Google form on their phone immediately when they come in. Just a very 30-second process where they answer yes or no to the 7 questions required by GHSA, and then they go up to the weight room. And of course, we started this on June the 8th, and they have, you know, went from groups of 20 to 25 to now 50. You know, one of the picture you see here, I guess one of the groups, now I chose this because out of all those groups, believe it or not, it's the cheerleaders that are right now the only group that haven't to touch each other, you know, because they're doing stunts and things like that. And so I thought it was cute that the fact they wear masks, you know, they're one of the few that actually decided to wear masks. You know, you can imagine being out in 95-degree heat, running as a football player wearing a mask would not be very pleasant. So they're doing a good job of that, and so I want to thank the coaches here publicly for, and I told them the first week, and Mr. Farney's leadership told me to do this. He said, you go in and tell them, I don't care what they're, you know, how serious they take the virus, but you, in front of those kids, they're going to take it very serious, you know, and we've tried to make them aware that it's not just what we're doing in the gym or in the weight room or on the field, it's what you do in public that matters, because then you're coming into, you know, that group to train. So another thing I want to thank coaches on board is, if you haven't noticed, I mean, we've had a lot of coaches that take time, you know, sometimes even on the weekends, just whenever it's not raining and they can get time to mow around campus. And you don't realize how much grass is around here until you start mowing it. And so I'd like to thank them publicly for that, and just recognize them for that, as well as the 3 summer workers that you approved to help us out here at the high school. Zach Smith, Cody Williams, and Caden Cooper. They've done a lot of weed eating this summer. Mr. Farney jokes and calls me a glorified landscaper at times. I've had several people, they'll say, man, you're awful dark this summer. And unfortunately, it's not because of vacation, it's because of mowing. But we really, honestly, enjoyed the opportunity to serve our school system in doing that. I've told the guys, hey, let's don't complain, because if we're wearing out in the spring coaching, you're getting a supplement. So they've done a good job at just being team players and coming in. The next thing on the agenda is to talk about the current construction that's underway due to the tornado damage. We've done a lot of work. People ask me, how's your job been since the coronavirus? I mean, it hasn't skipped a beat because of different things that have happened. I've almost felt busier. And this has been a really, when you look around and you just see the scoreboard at a 45-degree angle every time you pull into the campus, it gets a little frustrating. But finally that scoreboard has been installed and it's upright. The fences for the outfield for softball and baseball have now been put up. They're not 100% yet, but they are working on that. I'd like to thank you, board, for the roofs. I mean, I think of a school back where I'm from, Sequatchie County High School. When you go on their campus, I just remember this, it looks so classy because every building and every shingle on every building looks exactly the same. And I think that's very classy, and when they come in and they see these new roofs on our athletic facilities, I think people notice that. And I appreciate your approval of the new roofs on the hitting facility and the restrooms. And it's opened my eyes to when people come in this front entrance, when they look to the left, I want them to see that same and get that same feel, and so if you look at the hit facility and the restroom, it's got the beige block on it with the gold and maroon stripe and now the matching shingles. It's our vision, we'd like for everything to look alike, and when the tornado destroyed the softball dugouts, we came to you and asked for approval to expand those a little, because just to be quite honest, from being a softball coach and going around to different dugouts in our region, they were quite small. And so thankfully, we were able to expand those. And in doing so, we're going to make those look just like the hitting facility and the restrooms. They're going to have the same block, the same paint scheme with the gold and maroon stripes. So I think that looks classy. Unfortunately, where we weren't able to get the same shingles that are on the hitting facility and restrooms, because the construction guy explained to me that we couldn't create enough. The pitch, it wouldn't look good appearance-wise if we had to raise the pitch to where it wouldn't leak. And so if you can see this, just to give you a sneak peek of what the dugouts will look like. So far they've been demolished. There's no dugouts there, but soon we'll see something that looks very similar to this. The home dugout will now have a little storage space, 7 by 8 feet on the right side of it, so that those coaches don't have to go over to the baseball locker room, and girls don't have to get rakes and things from there. They can use that storage area. So I really do appreciate it, and I think it will add to the campus, just everything looking the same on that side of the campus. And in my vision, I'm working on this, just to give you a little sneak peek, is getting 3 bids for the baseball locker room. That's the only bigger building over there. And obviously we're not going to destroy it and build a new one, but I'm reaching out to some folks to see if we can get estimates on what it would take for us to have the same paint scheme as you see at the hitting facility and restrooms, paint it beigey color with the gold and maroon stripe, and also changing that roof out to look just like the hitting facility. I think that would add a lot of classiness to that side of our campus, and so I'll be talking about that at the next board meeting. But that's all I really have on our softball dugouts. Hopefully those will be up. The construction company, our first game is August the 8th, and those will be by then. I will go ahead and say this, just because I just got word before I walked in here, just so you know if you see this, it's become public now that the football schedule has been pushed back for 2 weeks. So now the first kickoff will, as of today, be September the 4th. And so far, right now, they're keeping all 10 games. That creates some issues with us if we play an out-of-state opponent, so we got to wait on like North Sand Mountain, what Alabama does, to see if we still get to play that game. So that's up in the air right now until Wednesday. But if you see that news, It's just for football only. Volleyball, cross country, softball, those sports will start on time as usual, but football will be pushed back for 2 weeks. Thank you.
Good job. Thank you, Brett.
Mr. Engel?
Good afternoon. I'll echo what Mr. Cooper said. Somebody asked me not too long ago, how's your job been going when students were out? I was like, it's really been busier just because of all the capital projects that we've had going on in our school district, but we've really made lots of progress. In your packet, I've included some images from the demolition of Building 2010, or the Rock Building at Davis Elementary. That first image is kind of a panoramic view standing on Davis School Road, looking back towards the gym. Kind of gives you a visual, and right down here where these sandbags are, that's where the rock from the old Rock Building has been stored. It's fenced in, and signage posted on the fence. No trespassing. Leave the rocks alone. The second picture is kind of standing towards the gym, looking back towards the cafeteria. You can see the silt fence there at the top. Complete Demolition Services has requested a pay, but we've retained some of that funding until we want to make sure that we get some grass established before that final payout. That's part of the responsibility in the contract. The next image, again, is similar to that panoramic view. You can kind of see the rocks a little better. And then during demolition, right there in that yellow circle, there was a well that was discovered. And architect Ken Harless reached out to the Environmental Protection Department at the state of Georgia, and he's doing some further research. But we did have one certified well inspector come out and take a look at it, and he's estimating it's a bored well, and he's estimating it to be about 40 feet deep, and then after about 30 feet down, it widens to about 8 or 10 feet. It's about 8 or 10 feet wide. So what we're going to do about that, we're still waiting for architect Ken Harless to, Ken Harless is reaching out to some other certified well inspectors just to kind of get some second, third opinions to really validate what the first inspector provided.
Do we have any kind of documentation back in the archives as far as like when it may have last been used?
Do I know?
Do we have any kind of information or confirmation in the archives of like when it may have last been used?
No, we dropped a rock down in it, and not one of the rocks from the Rock Building, but just a regular handheld rock, and we did hear water splash, but we have no clue how long.
Wow.
And it was, if you walk, if you were in the Rock Building, do you know where the janitor's closet, where all the electrical panels, it was right under that area there.
And there was no access hole from within the building?
No, they were tearing the building down, and the guy said, hole, and sure enough, walk over there, and around that, it's cased in concrete.
Wow.
So we just, architect Ken Harless was on vacation. We just left it alone until he returns back to work.
Just curious, have you or are you going to test the water quality?
I'll wait until Ken Harless provides guidance on that.
Do you want us to test
Well,
water?
you know, if it
Depending on how big the
be
water
used
table is.
for whatever,
Yeah.
Even as a backup source.
sure.
Yeah.
I think,
Figure out what it is.
yeah, I think I'd get the water quality test just so we know forget it or potential.
Good idea.
What,
See, if there's a big enough water table there, we could use it for, depending on the expense. And
Well, you said it already went out to 8 feet, so you may have an underground stream that Dade County Water Company does.
And that's just coming from one inspector.
Yeah.
see if you could put that on all the on the toilets.
Because the
Save
inspector,
a lot of water. Just kidding.
the inspector's recommendation, the first guy's recommendation was to come out and fill it completely full of concrete all the way to the ground. And we
I
said,
don't like his idea.
and we said, no, we're going to hold
Sorry.
off on that. And so that's why we're reaching out to some other.
Yeah, if the water table's not sufficient, then I can see
We need to
doing
test.
something like
But
that.
you have to,
If it's sufficient.
we have to use one of the vendors that's on the certified well inspectors list on the Environmental Protection Department's website. And there's about 300 listed. There's one in Chattanooga that we're going to reach out to, and a couple maybe in the Dalton area. Most of those inspectors are down below South Georgia, where
Be
the
interesting
land's
to
much
see how
much
deep
more
that water
flat.
really goes.
Yeah.
I mean, I know he's like
So
10 feet wide.
that was the mystery that was resolved during demolition at Davis, which was very interesting.
Yeah.
It's probably floating in the water down there.
Probably tied to a string somewhere.
Do you know where that time was?
So again, and here's another image. Kind of, this is standing right near the Head Start playground, looking back towards the cafeteria.
Steve Barton did have a visitor the other day from all that raising of the building.
And this image on the left, right, this first image on the left kind of shows where they did the separation. And so they've got a double wall there, along with a tarp, and it's caulked on the inside. And we've had a couple of rains since the separation happened, but we haven't had really to my knowledge, a big gully washer since it's been caulked. And we did have one before it was completely sealed, and we were able to get the water the next day, but we're still waiting on one of those big heavy summer downpours to make sure that building is sealed. And then here's just another image kind of under the awning area, looking back towards that little breezeway where the separation was. And this kind of standing at the gym, looking back towards Davis Elementary. And this is from up around the school, looking towards Davis School Road. So, I was on vacation last week, and I know that Mr. Harless, he's been on vacation now in the office. So we're hopefully this week we can make some gain some additional ground on what's next. I will say that the Georgia Department of Education requires us to have a risk hazard analysis and an environmental site assessment, and that is taking place as we speak. As a matter of fact, I received an email today asking if there were any natural gas lines running along Highway 301, and the National Gas Pipeline website does not indicate any gas lines running anywhere around Davis Elementary. So we'll wait on their report. And then as far as Dade Middle School goes, I don't have any images, but we did have a walkthrough today. We started at around 11 o'clock and I finished up just after 2. Nothing that really, nothing major. There's just some loose ends to tie up from the HVAC renovation over there. And some minor repairs.
What they did.
Yes, at Dade Middle School, we had roofs. We had the roofs replaced on part of the gym and on all of the buildings except for the main building. The main building was re-roofed just 8 years ago, so it's still in good shape. And then all of the HVAC systems or units in the school have been replaced except for the classroom. The classrooms are on individual barred units, and due to COVID-19, that's pushed the manufacturer back. And so the estimated arrival on the barred units are sometime in October. There's 4 different styles of barred units. Part of the barred units are scheduled to arrive possibly September, October. With installation scheduled possibly in December. And then the other 2 styles of barred units will not even arrive, will not be released from the manufacturer until late December. So we're looking at spring break or possibly even next June before those other barred units would be installed. So phase 2 will not really be officially the certificate of completion will not be done until those barred units are installed. But all in all, it was a good walkthrough. Just some minor loose ends to repair. Some tile work in the kitchen where some of the tile was damaged when they were installing the hood ventilation system. But it was a good walkthrough. I was very pleased. And Carol, Daniel, they did a outstanding job managing that project. So hats off to you guys and Dr. Harris for making that recommendation, and you all for supporting that recommendation for that contracting company. They're really, I was impressed. And they say that they're interested to see what might come out of Davis Elementary. They're seriously interested in possibly providing a proposal whenever we get to that point. As far as safety goes, if you've seen you've probably seen these little strobes installed throughout the central office or any of the schools. If you go in the restrooms, if you go in our offices, the Wolverine Den, this is the Centegix Crisis Alert. It comes with a badge. Anytime there's a crisis, teacher, because any employee can press that badge, and those strobes will light up to alert where the situation is happening. We're still having scheduling training on that, so that will be happening soon. Our annual training for teachers that we have online, in the past we've used Compliance Director. We are shifting to Safe Schools, which is because we're a GSBA partner school district, we get some of those online modules for free. It's really, it's a better platform because it's video based. So we'll be having a webinar and some training to take place on that. And I know PPE has been ordered. The purchase orders are currently being processed. Masks have been ordered, or the shields have been ordered. Thermometers, sanitizer, and the Georgia Department of Education is supposed to be providing masks to each of the districts. In my understanding, they're going to be distributed through RESA.
Correct. It's actually GMA.
Okay, GMA.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and Alex Case told me, there he is. He and I talked the other day, and he's getting some too, and He's been so great about always looking out for our children, and we talked about maybe getting some extra ones for the buses.
So that's all I have.
Okay. Brother John?
I had a question. He mentioned the guard units. Is that,
Josh.
John, is that the stand-up units?
They're on the walls. They're inserted in the walls. Yes,
Okay.
individual units.
Do you know what BTU rating those are?
I don't have those numbers.
To the BARD unit.
What about the BARD units?
I just wondered about the BTU rating. A friend of mine, they're not going to make him more or something. And he ran across 4 brand new ones that have been stored for quite a while. That's the reason I was asking.
The voltage would be the issue with the commercial voltage. We're 277. Could you
Which
ask
what?
me that? 277, not 220.
277, okay.
That would be the real key thing.
I thought I had a picture because I photographed one of them real good, but maybe.
They'll look the
believe-
same, but the voltage has to be 277.
Yes.
All right, thank you. I'll just refer to the document that I gave you on the facilities report with the different things that are going on in the facilities. I brought a little visual here tonight on the second bullet point underneath, just so you see what I'm talking about. One of the issues that we're doing right now in the facilities with our air conditioning units, one of the big things with the coronavirus and all of that is air quality and enhancing air quality in our buildings. You approved last month the 2 new air conditioning units, makeup air units at Dade Elementary School. They're in place and functioning now. That's huge because those were inoperable, which basically, with all that's going on, it gives them fresh air in there all the time. So they're functioning, everything's in place now, they're doing really well. The other issue that we're working on is with enhancing the air quality is the filters in all the air conditioning units. We're systematically, as that sheet shows you, we're systematically checking and changing every filter in every air conditioning unit in our entire system, which is extensive because there's so many of them are up in the roofs, the air handling units. But one thing we're wanting to do on air handling units now is we're ordering, this is the style that you're familiar with, but when you put these in those makeup air units, they pull in fresh outside air, which is humid, and you end up these are expensive because they're commercial quality, and you have to replace these, especially in the summertime, like every two to 3 weeks they can go down because of all the air. So we're ordering these. The issue with these are, see, they slide in, slide out. You pull them out, you spray them off, and they're not going to. These things crumble, and you have to replace them frequently. So this is going to save the system, I think, a lot of money over the life of those air conditioning units, because these are really good and they're durable, and they're just the way to go. So that's when you see that on there, that's what I'm talking about. These are really good filters. And they'll really save a lot of money from having to order these all the time.
Do they have the same filter material, the fiberglass filter material in them, or do you replace the material?
No. It's geared. This is what this is not replaced.
Just like that.
You just take it and you spray it with a hose,
Okay.
and it cleans it out. You insert it right back in, and it's done. And you never have to do this all the time. You just have to throw these away. But the humidity just destroys these things, and they get pulled up into the condensing units, and because they crumble, and then they get sucked up in there because the pressure is so strong.
And then we're replacing the units.
Yeah, and that just wears down on your compressor. Yeah, so anyway, that's just so you can see what I'm talking about on those. Okay, I think everything else there is pretty self-explanatory. The fuel tanks, they've begun disassembling our current dispensers, setting up a portable dispenser next to our existing fuel tanks in preparation for coming in and an entire replacement of the system. So that has begun. They're still working on getting the permits and all that. So the actual work of taking those units down is probably still a month and a half away, something like that, depending on if the state gets back the permits from the state fire marshal. Finally, on the bottom, the facilities, I just wanted to mention to you, we are really doing our best to maintain and go exactly by the CDC, the Georgia K-12 Path to Recovery, our governor's executive orders to follow those explicit and keep our buildings in line as far as cleaning and disinfecting. We've done a secondary time with the fogging machines that you all approved to purchase, disinfecting fogging machines with the disinfectant that kills the COVID-19. We go in and we spray an entire area. We've done that we've done a secondary application in all the facilities now, and in all the buses. You'll see that in the transportation. We've done that in every single bus, and we'll continue to do that with the buses. That'll be a daily thing on the buses. Once we start the routes, we'll go in and spray every bus after the route with that disinfectant, so it'll keep them very clean. I do want to also mention the custodians. They're just doing an outstanding job, and I want to commend them. They have gone above and beyond and really have applied themselves in keeping in the deep cleaning of the buildings this summer. I think all the principals would attest to that. They have really excelled, and I just want to mention them and let you know they do a fantastic job, and I really appreciate their diligence in what they're doing in keeping our facilities.
And Mr. Smith, also, if you said it, I may have missed it, but anyway, we've had training with the vendors for cleaning per CDC guidelines for COVID-19.
Yes, we had a training session and training them the proper chemicals, the proper application of the chemicals, the proper storage of the chemicals, how to use them, when to use them, and it was just an excellent time. They could ask questions, and they asked a multitude of questions. It was just really a valuable investment of time, and they're very passionate about this. They care. I had one of the contractors today at the middle school with Callahan. He just came up to me and said, "I just want you to know, Cliff, he takes ownership of what he does. This building, he takes it personally, the way he cleans, how detailed he is. He's really passionate about what he does, as the others are. And that's just reflective of a system-wide of our custodians. They are just fantastic, so kudos to them." Any questions?
Thank you, Joel.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. You're welcome.
They sure are. The last thing that I have, just as a conversation before going through the consent agenda, I asked Chris Green if he would speak to you about the possibility of us getting new laptops for our teachers. And he may want to briefly mention about the other two items on the agenda, if you need to say anything about it. They're pretty self-explanatory.
We've never really given our teachers like devices for like laptops. They've had Chromebooks and things like that, but it's just never come up to do it. It's a pretty costly thing, but I think we saw a pretty dramatic example of when they needed them this past spring, because you can run it as best you can from your Chromebooks, but they were, going through hoops to make things happen and just trying to use things that they didn't really need to. The quality of the webcams are not nearly as good. The processor's not there. You're not running, in some cases, the Office software. Now, in this case, we're leaning to Google Docs now, but at the same time, there's just a lot of things there that would have been nice if they all had a device. They could use it at school and at home. And anyway, we did some we had a discussion, and we basically started looking into it during a pandemic. Trying to get mobile devices of any quality and quantity is near impossible. I mean, it's just like, you've got to have vendors who really want to go out there and beat the bushes for it. So we did kind of an exploratory bid process just to ask them, what could you get us? How much would it be? And we basically put out, if you allow us to do it, the specs that we'd need for these to be good for years to come. Because we don't want to buy something, spend a lot of money, and 2 years from now go, well, these devices, what are we going to do with them now? So anyway, we went through and spec'd them out where they'd be good for several years, and kind of as expected, we got kind of three results. We used the national vendor, and we used two that have won multiple bids from us from more like Chattanooga, Nashville, Atlanta type area, and the results ended up being the national one. They really couldn't get us. We were looking at getting them for all the certified employees, or the ones that needed them. So roughly 190. And so we looked at it with the national vendor, and they came back to us with not exactly what we'd asked for. They basically came to us with a refurbished product with a smaller screen. And this is the person I expected to have everything. We had another vendor that's won a few of our bids in the past that beat the bushes and came back with an excellent device, exactly what we asked for a really good price. But the thing that happened there is they're able to get them like right now. They can get them for the next like week or two, and at that point the manufacturer, the vendor, they're letting them go for sale because there's so much demand. And then we had a third vendor who found exactly the device we wanted at almost full retail. So it's just kind of like those are kind of the extremes. So I think if we are allowed to put it out to bid, we're going to find, I think, a little bit of that. I mean, we had prices ranging. The two that actually met the qualifications, those two bids were right at $100,000 apart. So basically, the devices that were coming in with the vendor that gave us what we wanted at a good price, we're looking at something with some warranty, brand new product, roughly in the $200,000 range. So pre-warranty and stuff, we're looking at like $900 something a device. The other one that came back to us was $1,555 a device. So I think we're going to see a pretty wide range. And the thing that's going to be really touchy is if they can get them, typically they're not going to be able to get them for long. So,
But we want to be
Yes.
proactive and get the tools that the teachers need in their hands before, and we just feel like they need something a little bit more powerful.
I agree 100%.
I have a question.
yes.
When you've done software updates and stuff like that before, was it where you were having to go to each computer?
Yes.
Okay.
Typically.
So how long ago has that been? A year, 2 years?
When we went from like Windows 7 to Windows 10 or
Well, I just remember I'd have to actually go
Right.
back and find,
Right.
but what was the last software update that was done?
The last one would have been major one we did was we went from Windows 7 to Windows 10 devices, and it took place, Windows 7 lost support from Microsoft at the very beginning of this year, and so we had to get everything done before that, and that was the last big purchasing push. And it was, we had taken our Windows XP devices, were still fully capable of running Windows 7, so we pushed them up. So we were using devices 7, 8 years old and updating them with the software till finally you just reach the point where that device can no longer do it anymore. It just doesn't have the right processor, doesn't have enough memory, can't be upgraded to have enough memory to run it properly. So it's been really a few years since we've done any kind of a mass purchase. The last time we did maybe a 400 devices. Well, we bought like computer desktops for basically classrooms and labs, and that was the last new purchase that we did. And
And that was when again?
when would you say?
In the last 2 years.
Yeah, the last couple of years we've been
Because
involved.
I remember it being a conversation of
Yeah.
when we do this, let's make sure it's pushed for
Yes.
the long haul.
Oh, yeah.
So I was just curious.
It's been ongoing for quite some time to get us done before we could still, while we still had support and could still use the devices for everything. We'd reached that point where the software that we basically buy subscriptions to would no longer run on these devices after X date. So we had to get them all finished before then. And we recently did the same thing with our servers. We had to basically bump a lot of them up because we'd lost support on those server operating systems. So we've done the same thing. We've stayed ahead, but we've been, a little bit down to the line on getting ahead. So that's kind of like the looking at these, we're looking at devices that are going to be, as long as you can take a mobile device and make it good, we'd be in that window with these specs. So it's kind of like we've got it to that point.
This is something they've needed for years. Working from a Chromebook, even before the pandemic.
Yes.
Working from a Chromebook for a teacher. Most teachers are spending this money themselves, mine included. If we didn't have the MacBooks at home, this virtual learning stuff that we just went through wouldn't have been possible. The Chromebooks just wouldn't handle it. Some teachers I do know use their phones. They made it happen,
Right.
but they shouldn't have to. And so I'm not just speaking for my wife, but I did get an opportunity to see it firsthand. That, man, what they've got, the Chromebooks are perfect for the students, especially with the new ones that we've got. I don't see an issue with that. But teachers so often, they're answering emails from parents. They needed this long before we saw a pandemic. Now you put that on top of it, it's a no-brainer to me.
Yeah, it dramatically illustrated.
Yeah.
You're at home now. You've got to keep working. What are you going to do next? So.
Question, the laptops, would they be as usable like when if a teacher's desktop computer finally played out, would that be something that can be hooked up and be used in place of ordering?
They'd be fully
you?
capable if they needed to be, yes, definitely.
Okay. Would that be something they could use instead of using the desktops?
It could be if
You
they.
still have the desktops
Yes.
for the students.
They'll have, they'll still have the desktop, and then if it needed to be replaced, they could use these, or they could be used in place of them if you were wanting to do it a different way. Because they're more, the desktops we've had for a few years, and I'm trying to spec them to where they're well advanced.
So that would work
before we
well
go.
with the Promethean board, that kind of thing?
Yes, oh yeah.
I don't know if it'd be Wi-Fi or Bluetooth capable necessarily.
Some of them are, but these would be, but it's like you could definitely use the same wiring that's already there.
Right. It's just something to consider
You
because
say
it'd be
they
silly to have to
wouldn't be, or
do
they
it.
No, they would be. They
be.
could handle it, yeah.
But
So
like you said,
basically-
to have them capable of all of those things so that we're not looking at it again.
Right.
So basically, we're just asking for permission to do an RFP to get.
To see what we're looking at.
for y'all.
Okay.
No, exactly, without a lot of hoops.
Okay.
I just said Chromebooks you can't print from the Chromebook either.
No.
Like it works.
I don't reckon any of them have Office on them. So if superintendent or principal, anyone sends out an email that's Excel, Word, PowerPoint, any of that stuff, they don't have the capability to get to it.
Yeah. Well, they weren't great with the platform we started with, which was Google Classroom.
Yeah.
But since the pandemic, like you said, it's just changed everything.
Yeah.
Well, and they work well for our students for testing and things.
Good for that.
Yes.
Okay.
Do we want to do my other stuff, or?
You can go ahead and speak to it.
Okay.
There are two other things on the
Yes.
consent agenda, just quickly, just to
Okay.
go over that. Yeah.
Quickly, the MCA Network Managed Service Agreement, that's kind of our only really ongoing thing. That's every bit of our backup. That's technical support 24/7. When we have a machine that looks like it's getting too full memory-wise, a server, we'll get an email. Are you aware of this? Do you know this machine's off? Basically, we're on their board at all times. Ransomware, spyware, viruses, they're monitoring us nonstop. If we have something disastrous happen, we're being backed up literally on the device itself, the server, a Dade backup appliance also here, and then also out in the cloud and in a hard drive in Chattanooga as well. So it's kind of like they provide for us everything that you almost can't afford to do for yourself. And as we've been in and on the verge of some of these ransomware situations where if you really can't get out of them, you start being asked for either cryptocurrency or cash. This is money well spent. This protects us and backs us up in every possible way. They're great with support on anything that happens. We work a lot with virtual servers. They've got an expert for basically anything that we need.
Now, this is the ones we talked about before we upgraded the servers this past year,
Yes.
correct? Same-
Yes.
okay.
Be the second.
Mike Collins and Associates, yeah.
Yeah.
We're down to, and there's no longer, the very first year it was a little bit more because we had hardware that we initially bought, the Dade backup appliance, the server that stuff initially went on, but now it's just down to basically their support and backup and protection.
Nice.
So, and then we're a part of the technology surplus. I think other items are on there, but we were talking about the Windows 7 machines and stuff like that. That last wave of them we've generated, that's what it is. There's nothing in there that's not probably 8 years old minimum, and it's reached end of life in every way possible. So, but they did great till they went. So,
Okay. Do y'all have any questions about those two things? Because they're on the consent agenda.
Right.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you, Chris.
The next thing is just in your packet, I have a report for you that our directors prepared. If they were not on the agenda to speak, a written report.
Okay. All right. Is that just for our information?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So now we're at the point of the consent agenda discussion. And so we'll go through and to each item, and then the things we've discussed, if there were no questions on them, we can move forward with them. Okay, so the first one is local board governance annual training.
Yes, ma'am. Every year, the Dade County School System works with the Georgia School Boards Association and the Georgia School Superintendents Association to help culminate in the development of a vision to transform public education in Georgia to help improve educational opportunities for all students. And the Board of Education incorporates recommendations from the Georgia Vision Project into its strategic plan. A local board governance annual training report is submitted to Dade to demonstrate compliance with the State Board of Ed's policy on training for the members of local boards of education, the Code of Ethics of Local Board of Education, and the Conflict of Interest provisions application to members of the local boards of ed. Each year, the Dade County Board of Education members must complete and submit a local school board governance annual training compliance report to the Georgia Department of Ed. This report provides the number of credit hours earned, and each board member and superintendent certifies that they have maintained the Code of Ethics and the Conflict of Interest. For the FY20 school year, each board member and the superintendent exceeded the number of training credit hours required by the Georgia Department of Education. So each person, do I get them to sign this one, Cynthia, or do you have a different one? In the white note. Okay, so here, the one that says needs signature, that's the one. So I'll pass this around and ask everybody to please sign. That's the second. You have to put yes or no under maintain code of ethics and conflict of interest and then sign. So I started it, and it needs to be in blue ink, is that correct, or does that matter? Thank you. Thank you. Here's blue ink if you need it.
Sure, thanks.
And then each person has to sign, so Ms. Bradford, Mr. Davis, Mr. Warren, there's yours. Thank you. And I've already signed mine. And that is the board, the number of hours of completion. Thank you. I think you've seen that.
To sign that one.
If you'll just sign at the bottom. Yeah, you can sign anywhere under your name for the, anywhere underneath your name will be great for that one. Pass that one around. I can take that one. That's fine. Thank you.
Pass it this way.
You'll file these for the board.
That's that one right there.
All right.
It's yours now.
That's all you gotta do nowadays, just touch it, it's yours. Nobody wants it back.
Yeah, I tried doing that at a car dealership the other
It
day.
doesn't work,
They didn't
does
get
it?
it.
And I will say too that the board is eligible for exemplary board, which is the highest award that a board can achieve because of the training that we've all undergone together and other tasks that we've completed that are above and beyond. So we'll be getting recognition for that soon. Thank you.
Okay. The next item is Board Policy JBC, school admissions.
Yes, ma'am, and I referenced this earlier. We wanted to update our policy to change that everyone had to come to the superintendent's office to enroll, and we're going to an online version of that. But in working this, the GSBA has an updated policy with the latest provisions, and that is in yellow. And I'm asking that the board waive the lay in this policy on the table so that we can go ahead and get this policy in place, and then we can create the procedure to go with it. And that way, every time we have a change, the board won't have to update the policy. Just the procedure will have to be updated. So there's really nothing new other than we're going to that online provision and not making them go to 2 places to enroll. So the recommendation is to not lay this policy on the table for 30 days and approve it tonight.
Do y'all have any, does anybody have any questions about that? You're okay with that? Okay. If there's no questions, we'll move on to the financial report.
And Dr. Spivey?
This will be very quick. You have only in your packet this time, you have the activity fund report by school and the updated spliced expenditures by site. The financials will not be able to do those as we normally do at the end of the month until we close out the fiscal year. I can't close out June until we do that, so that could be as late as the end of September, shortly thereafter. So we'll have the financials for each month at that point, at that time. We do have a spending resolution this evening. As you know, we have the 2 public budget hearings scheduled July 23rd at noon and August 17th at 4:30. So hopefully this would be the last time we would have to do a spending resolution if we have an approved budget at that time. And the only other thing I wanted to mention in the departmental update is we are, as it says in there, we're about halfway through the transition from soft docs to eTrieve. We've done the deployment call and the discovery training / conversion, and so the next steps will be, and that's gone very smoothly so far, the next steps will be administrator training in August and then end user training in September to complete that process. And unless there are any questions, I think that's all I have for tonight.
Okay, are there any questions on those?
No, I'm just glad to hear that the transition training is going well. You know, you're always concerned about that when, you know,
Okay.
you're making a major muscle movement, so that's a very positive thing.
Okay. Next on there is the MCA Network Managed Services, and we've already discussed that.
Yep.
Next is Technology Surplus. We've discussed that. Next is item 7, Agreement with Bright from the Start Pre-K.
Yes, ma'am, and this is an annual approval for our pre-K program, which is overseen by our Susan Reyes. And so this is the typical agreement. We had thought that we might lose some days from the state on this program, but they did not cut any days. So it's just like last year.
Good. Okay. Does anybody have any questions on that? Okay. Next is agreement with Here Tennessee.
Yes, ma'am, this is another annual contract for our special needs children. as needed.
All right, any questions on that one? Next is agreement for annual maintenance of the chiller water towers.
I think the Head Start, Madam President, was next.
Oh, I'm sorry. Agreement with Family Resource Agency, Head Start.
And this is the annual contract that the board approves. So we have the same relationship with Head Start that we've enjoyed previously.
Okay. All right, and then the agreement for the annual maintenance of the chiller and water towers. Did we discuss that?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
John Smith, our Director of Transportation and Facilities, provided information regarding the annual maintenance of the chiller water towers at Dade Middle and Dade County High School. These towers have to be maintained and have regular chemical testing and water treatments. He received 3 quotes as listed. Culligan Water Company, $4,800. Kim South Technical Services at $6,660, and Z Water and Energy at $8,397.19. Mr. Smith and I are recommending Kim South. The reason is the lowest bid did not include all the items necessary to maintain the towers, and the cost of purchasing those additional items would cost more than the bid from Kim South. So the recommendation is to approve Kim South Technical Services for the annual maintenance at the high school and middle school chiller water towers in the amount of $6,660 per year out of the general fund.
All right, are there any questions on that? Okay. Next is agreement with PLP schools, and we've already addressed that. Next is agreement with Apex, and we've addressed that.
Yes, ma'am, but for the record, can I read in the amount, the dollar amount?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So the recommendation for pre-K through grade 5 is $133,000 for schools PLP. And for middle and high school, the agreement with Apex came in at a cost of $35,541. And that is for our virtual school.
And these are out of SPLOST funds, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay.
These are out of SPLOST.
Okay. All right. Next is a 3D printer for Dade County High School.
Yes, ma'am, and just to, I won't repeat all of that, but I will just repeat, the cost is $132,392 for the printer, and we have received 2 grants, and also a rebate from Georgia Power. So the grant was for $47,000, and we got a $5,000 grant from Georgia Power Foundation. And the rebate from Georgia Power is $26,616, and the insurance rebate that we got was $12,947, and $30,176.96 from the Georgia Department of Community Health reimbursement. All of the funds, aside from the grants, are unearmarked new money that came in that was not accounted for in the budget. And that leaves a balance of $10,652.04 that I'm recommending that we take out of SPLOST. And we've applied for another $5,000 grant. Do we know when we'll hear from that?
Sometime in August.
Okay, so maybe before next board meeting we will know. Hopefully that will bring that down to $5,000.
So bottom line right now is 10K.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are there any more questions on that? All right, the next is desk shields.
Okay. This is the recommendation to purchase desk shields. Davis, Dade Elementary, and Dade Middle would all like to have desk shields for students. These shields protect students and teachers against the spread of germs. They are crystal clear, pet impact resistant, easy to clean and wipe down, with side pockets, privacy inserts, and they're portable. They fold up and lay flat. 3 quotes were received. David Dobbs Enterprises, $17,924. EAI Education, $26,990. And Privacy Shield, $53,040. Thicker, but not exactly what was asked to quote. So our recommendation is that the board approve purchasing 800 desk shields for Dade Elementary, Davis, and Dade Middle School from David Dobbs Enterprises, Inc. in the amount of $17,924. This would be eligible from SPLOST funds.
Okay. All right. Are there any questions on that? Okay. So that ends the consent agenda items. The next item on the agenda is public input. Do we have any public input? Okay, there's no public input. Okay, so next is approval of the consent agenda. So do I hear a motion to approve items 1 through 14 of the consent agenda?
Make a motion, we approve all the items. Quick question, does that include the RFP? Just for the computers?
Well, we don't have to have a formal approval of that, but I didn't want to go out and solicit,
Sure.
bids without the board's blessing, so.
Just want to be sure.
Okay.
I took away from that it was okay to, just from your body language and all, is that all right on the RFP?
Okay. All right, so do I hear a second on that?
I second.
All right. All in favor? So that's everyone. Okay, the next is executive session for personnel. Do I hear a motion for executive session for personnel?
I'll second it.
All right. Bob, second. All in favor? All right, that's everyone.
How's that working with that little?
Okay.
Girl, I'll tell you that. She's a good one.
She's the best one.
Okay.
Except when she does that homeowners association stuff, then that's really bad.
Okay, do I hear a motion to return from executive
Make a
session?
motion.
Who seconded it?
Way to go, John.
Johnny. Okay, all in favor? Okay, that's everyone. Okay, next is personnel report.
I recommend the board approve the personnel report as discussed in executive session.
Okay, do I hear a motion to accept that report?
I make a motion, we accept that report.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor? Okay, that's everyone. Okay, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion.
I'll second that.
Daniel, second. All in favor? And then I think there's a couple of did you announce those?
In the beginning.
Did you announce those in the, yes. Did you announce them in the?
No, ma'am, I did not, and I don't have my agenda in front of me. Here it is, I got it. Thank you, Cynthia. First day of school for students, August 7th, 2020. Budget hearing dates, July the 23rd at noon, and August the 17th at 4:30 p.m. And then we have whole board governance training with GSBA. We're already starting on the new year for training. This will be July 23rd at 4 p.m. And then we still are in the process of planning a strategic planning work session.
Okay.
So do you-
Oh, okay. All right. That completes our thing.
Yeah, I'll go home, see if my wife will.
Well, happy anniversary.
Tell her we said happy anniversary.
We did. Yes, ma'am.